Welcome to round number 5. I was facing another youngster with a rating of around 2100 and I was playing the black pieces. After e4, I have quite a bunch of options nowadays. Sicilian, Caro-Kann, or my new weapon after e5. And I was really hoping for the Spanish to play the JAEHNISCH Gambit, which I studied quite a bit and I find it quite tricky, especially in shorter time controls. And actually already on the next move, he did not manage to put pressure and gave me an equal position immediately. And I was feeling I'm already on the better side. So what did he play? He played d4, which is not great. d4 is actually the main move if we had the moves a6 and bishop a4 included. Okay, I'm not quite sure if it's the main move, but it's a good move there. But here there are some nuances and d4 is not working as well. The good moves here are d3 and knight to c3. Everything else I don't really believe in for white to count on any real advantage. So you can check those out. So let's have a look at d4. Black takes on e4. And now white would love to play knight to e5. And this position would be great for him if the bishop was already there or the bishop was on c4, because then I have some trouble developing and I can really not solve the problem and I will have some trouble getting my king castle later. However, in this specific situation, just because the bishop is on b5, black has this nice move c6, which opens up the way for the queen to go to a5. And if white moves the bishop, I will pick up central pawn. And once I have picked up the central pawn, I will be able to strengthen the center, shut down this bishop, and later castle my king while being a pawn up. So that's a very concrete line, but it is there and it works for black. So that's why they cannot play like this. There's another gambit line that white can even sacrifice the bishop and try to play this, but objectively speaking, this is also very fine for black. The only thing you need to know is that you should sacrifice a pawn in order to get your pieces out here. He can take, but after that you have the flexibility to jump knight to f6. That's it about this line. I guess he saw it at this point that he would lose the e5 pawn, so he took here first, but that gives me the pair of bishops and black is in general fine. I once lost this position with white when I played the same stuff back in 2024, I guess, where I was not familiar with this line with either side too much. So he took knight f6, bishop e3, and already now black is a bit better. I should have played bishop to d6, castles, queen e7, putting pressure on the e5 knight, also sometimes trying to undermine it by playing c5 and taking away its defender. However, I was not too familiar with what I should do. I thought I'd just put the bishop on e7, bishop on e6, and then we'll undermine the knight with c5. But that was not so accurate. So I play bishop e7, castles, castles, c3, bishop e6. However, instead of bishop e6, queen d5 I think is more interesting because it already puts pressure on this knight. And when I play c5, he cannot take it because the knight would drop. And also this queen is doing an excellent job against all kind of queen b3, also guards this e4 pawn. And once the queen is hit, it will just retreat. And once we now want to undermine this pawn, there is no longer this pawn chain that another pawn will come to d4 and again defend the knight. So this is much harder. And this can easily go wrong. For example, in a line like this, if white played just normal moves, he would already drop the knight. And I think strategically speaking, this is one of the biggest dangers in the black position, in the white position, that this knight on e5 might get unstable very quickly. And there is also no route back for the knight. It cannot jump to f3, not to d3. So it's not so easy. However, I didn't go for that. I played bishop e6 instead. Knight goes to d2. And now I started getting a bit worried about my e4 pawn. So what to do? He would play something like queen c2 and how to defend it. If I go bishop there, my pawn is pinned and he can't even play f3 because my bishop would be undefended. So I didn't see that many options, so I went for queen d5, defending with the queen. And now he can, of course, go for his plan, but I thought I just need to look for dynamic counterplay. I cannot really keep it. If I play bishop f5, f3 is incoming, and I didn't like it too much. And at some point he will also kick my queen and then pick up the pawn. So what I did was I wanted to strike back in the center with c5. And he went for the most critical line and the only critical line, which is c4, hitting my queen and winning the pawn. But I was counting on the fact that I have bishop f5 here, and my bishops are quite good. The center will open up, and in some cases I would even win back the pawn immediately. If he takes on b7, which is best by computer, I can take on d4. He has the only move, bishop to d4, and I thought I have a lot of play. Positions open. I have a d-passer, I have the b-file maybe, I can play queen b6, some kind of stuff, and with the pair of bishops, even if I stay a pawn down, I have some compensation at the very least. But he didn't go for that. Another line I was considering during the game was this one, trying to go to an endgame with a pawn up, but actually I can regain the pawn immediately, being even better with the pair of bishops here. So he went for another move, which was d takes c5, hitting my queen. But I can simply take his queen, he takes mine, and I take here. Again, I'm a pawn down, but this knight is kind of unstable. And it doesn't have so many good squares. If g4, then h5 will be coming, and it's a bit critical. If he defends it, I think I can just attack it once more. And I'm also out of the trouble, more or less. My bishops are kind of okay. So in the game he decided to play pawn to f3, counter-attacking my bishop and also securing maybe some route back for the knight in case I move my bishop. However, I went for the concrete line again because I thought the activity would promise me enough counterplay. Take, take. And now I have some chances to win back a pawn, but it's not so easy. So I was counting on the fact that he cannot solve all those problems at once. Also e4 might be weak in the long run. So what did I do? If I would take here, he might trade on f8 first and then play rook b1, activating his rook and getting my b7 in return. So I've just played the calm b6. So now I'm really threatening to take b2 without losing anything back on b7. And it's not so easy for him to really cover everything. There are some tries, of course, and we will check them, but it's not that easy. So let me first show you what he could have tried. For example, he could try rook f8, and now defend the pawn with rook to b1. However, in this case, I can simply play against the e4 pawn with rook e8, move my bishop, pick up the pawn. There is not so much he can do against it. He needs just so much time to fix all the weaknesses. He cannot bring the king, for example, because probably I would just check and come back, or I would check and take the h2. He cannot move the rook. He first needs b3, and then I have enough time to pick up the e4 and restore the material balance. So let's have a look at another try. He could also trade on f8 and then play rook d1, trying to activate his rook. And this is actually good enough for him to keep the balance, but not more. So black is fine as well. It's also not easy for black to really count on something real. If I play rook f7, he might repeat the moves. So not so easy for black either to play for win. So yeah, what did he do in the game? In the game he played rook to b1, which I thought was based on some tactical oversight. Now I took on f1 and he realized that he loses a pawn by force and he needed to make a decision which pawn. Still, position should be around equalish. I would prefer black, but I still think it's nothing special and white should be able to hold without too much danger. So he took with the rook, I took. He brought the king to the center. I was quickly considering if I should go for rook trade, but I thought this might be comfortable, but I didn't see so many ways to play for win here. Maybe I can attack those pawns, but I did not really see how, so I didn't go for this and kept the extra rooks on the board because it gives me more scope to play. So I played bishop e5 and just brought my king to the center. Now I was trying for some pawn breaks, but he prevented everything, and we just moved around for a bit. He played rook e8, he played rook f5, I played pawn to g6, and he kind of fell for my trap. He played rook f6 check, which gives me a great chance to walk with the king. And now suddenly I have two threats. First, I want to take this pawn, and second, I want to play bishop e7, picking up some material because I hit the rook and the bishop behind is undefended. This might look a bit dangerous for my king at first sight because it's having no single square, but note that bishop f4 is never made because the rook would drop. So This position is already very good for me, and from this point it went all very smoothly and I could convert. He tried rook f3. Of course I don't take the pawn now as it would drop my rook, but I went there with the king. Just activate the king and collect the pawns. He tried check, and he set a little trap with pawn to e5 based on the idea if I take, he pins me. If I defend, he gives a check. If I go to e6 now, he takes, and wins my rook. But if I go to c6 instead, he will pin me again. And I need to defend again, and he will check again. So that's kind of his idea, and so he thought I cannot take this pawn. However, I took this pawn anyway, as I had a very nice counter trick. He pinned me, I defended, he gave a check. And now I did not blunder the bishop, but I gave this counter check with bishop d4. And even though this bishop is pinned, it will shortly after be supported by the pawn and thus never be in danger of being lost. So I could safeguard my bishop. I'm 2 pawns up now, and after a5 I just converted into the pawn ending, because pawn up, pawn endings are usually winning very easily, so there's no need to give him a second chance to keep the rooks on the board. And after takes, king c4, he resigned as my b pawn is about to queen. And if he is trying to come close, he will not even manage, but I could also just go for the king side pawns in the meantime. So that's it. I was struggling a bit in the early middle game, but after that the end game went very nicely for me, also tactically speaking. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for round number 6. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. Really appreciate that, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye.